Hey everybody, it's Chris at Scrapbook Tree. Today we're going to be making our 49 and Market flip album called Beached. I'd like to start out by taking you through all the product that we'll be using to create this album. The first thing we're going to be using is our Foundations 2-inch portrait album and the jagged quarter flip folio. You'll also see in your kit some magnets. These are from Tonic Studio and the glue dots that go with them. A 6x8 collection pack, Vintage Artistry Beached. When it comes time to embellish, we're going to be using the Vintage Artistry Shore Ephemera stacks, the Vintage Artistry Shore rub-ons, and the Beached washi tape. We've also got these really adorable paradise-shaped clips. These are going to be really cute additions to our album. Now, in order to make this album, we also need some tools. We're going to be needing a paper trimmer, some adhesive. I'm using a 1/2-inch double-sided tape. You're going to need this when we go to assemble the base of the album, so you'll want to make sure that it's strong tape. I'm also using Nouveau Deluxe Adhesive Liquid Glue, a Tombow tape runner, some 3D foam squares. I'm also going to be using sunburst stickles at the end to help embellish. Distress ink, vintage photo, and a finger dauber to apply it. A pencil, and some scissors. Once we have all of these items, we're ready to go. At the Scrapbook Tree, we love to ink. So the first thing that we're going to need to do before we begin to build our album is a little bit of prep work. We can go ahead and start inking some of the paper from our collection pack. We're going to take our cover page from our collection pack and flip it over, and we can ink this completely. We are not going to be cutting it at all when we place it in our album. And that's going to be the same for this entire stack of paper that I'm going to talk to you about. Ink everything all the way around. There's no cutting involved. It goes right in the album as is. Got this newsprint on the back. We're going to use this side. This wonderful blue watercolor paper. It's got the quarter journal cards on the back. Ink that completely. 2 sheets of this paper. Kind of a fun map with the 4x6 journal cards on the back. 2 sheets of this wonderful beach paper. It's got that on the back. We're going to use that side, so ink 2 sheets of that. We're going to have 2 sheets of this. It's got this gorgeous pink on the back side. We'll use this side this time. We're going to do 2 sheets of this side. We saw it a little earlier. We're going to use this side this time. 2 sheets of the green palm paper. And then 4 sheets of this paper. We're going to use 2 of this side. You can see that's got that on the back. And then we're going to use 2 of this side. So like I said, you can go ahead and ink these completely. We're not cutting them at all. Now for these, you can go ahead and ink them all the way around, but just know that we're going to be cutting one edge with our jagged edge technique. So you will have to probably go back and re-ink just one side of that. And this is the back side of our collection pack. It's got this really cute blue newsprint. You can go ahead and ink that all around, but like I said, we'll cut one edge of it. You can just re-ink it later. The green palm, and then 2 sheets of the beach scene with that on the side. So ink those all around, but expect to re-ink one end. And for these, what you need to do is cut them into 3x4 squares and then ink them all the way around. We need to do that with 2 of the watercolor that's got the 2x3 journal cards on the back. I want you to take this journal card, Life is Better at the Beach, and ink it so you can see the side, because we're going to use this later in the album, and then the other 3 will be the blue. So go ahead and cut those all into 3x4 squares and ink them all the way around. This paper as well. And then 2 of the newsprints. We're going to use the newsprint side, cut it in 3x4 squares and ink it all the way around. These will be mostly photo matting, except for that one that I talked about. So go ahead and we can get this prep work out of the way, and it'll make building our album so much faster. Take out all of the laser cut dies. So beautiful. And we're going to break open our Vintage Artistry ephemera stack. And we're going to take all that ephemera out. And we are going to ink them up. We'll need to take all of the die cuts, the laser die cuts, out of their home. And 49 and Market does a really great job of making sure that these are easy to get out. I don't think I've ever had a problem pulling these out of their little space. Now you'll notice that I have a paper towel laid out on my desk. I like to use that to catch some of that ink dust that tends to fly off of the dauber when I'm inking my edges. And this is a really great time for you to take a look at all of the amazing pieces that come included with this and kind of think about how you might use them in your album. You may notice that when you are taking your die cuts out of there, there'll be just little bits of paper that you can kind of notice on the edges from that held it into the spot. I mean, these are looking pretty good. But if you find them, all you have to do is just grab your scissors and snip them out. You can also use your fingernail and then try to take it off a little bit by scraping it. That can work, but sometimes I feel like it almost just folds it down a little bit and it pops right back up. So I usually like to take my scissors and nip them out really quick. Super easy. And if you just kind of keep your scissors at an angle, you don't cut into your die cut. You're just getting that little piece of paper right from the edge. And then we're just going to continue this, removing all of our laser cuts. And then we're going to begin to ink the edges. Once all of our laser die cuts are cut out, we will go ahead and start inking them up. I'm going to start with one of the more delicate things. For this, I always just kind of pop it right down on my mat and go around. It's okay if more than just the edge of your die cut gets inked up. It kind of adds a little bit to it, in my opinion. Okay, so now that we have all of our ephemera and laser cuts all inked up and ready to go, what I like to do is separate them so it's much easier to find them when it's time to use them. You can grab a cookie sheet. This is a lid to an IKEA box. It's super handy, perfect size for me. I just get them all and group them into little groups. I've got the larger ones here in this bag because they're much easier to see. And then we're just going to take this and set it to the side. And then we are going to move on to our next step, which is actually building the album. And for that, we're going to need our album and our washi tape. So let's get started. I've gone ahead and taken the wrapping off our album and grabbed our washi sheet. We are going to be using this one, so I've taken it out and we'll set the others to the side for when it's time to embellish. Let's talk about our album real quick before we begin. Since it's all white and it can sometimes be a little easy to get turned around, and it's really kind of super important that we realize which side of the album is up. So when we open our album, the first thing that we should see is this page that folds outward this way. So if that's not what you're looking at right now, go ahead and turn your album to the correct side. Let's close our album and talk about what we need to do with our washi sheet. Our washi sheet needs to be cut to 9 inches in length. So we need to determine which end we are going to save. Because the washi tape looks really cute with this little mollusk, I guess it is, right here in the corner of the album, we're going to go ahead and save this side and trim the excess off of the top. So let's grab our cutting board. And I've got my arm opened up so I can get out to 9 inches. And I am going to put the side that I'm keeping out to my 9. And trim off the top. Now we don't need that, so I'm going to set that over to the side. And my next step would be to ink the edges of our washi tape. You don't need to ink the top or the bottom edge because those will be folded over into the album and you won't even see them. So let's go ahead and ink our sides really quickly and then we can get it put on our album. I've gone ahead and inked the sides of the washi tape. Now our next step before we apply it will be to find the middle. The washi tape is 6 inches wide, and you can go ahead and use a regular ruler for this, but I find my paper trimmer works great. It's got a little ruler on it. So I place it at the 6-inch mark and I find the 3-inch and I make just a little bit of a pencil mark there at the top. And that will help me center my washi tape over top of the binding of my album. We will set our cutting board over to the side. And we're going to talk a little bit about the washi tape. It is beautiful and it's also slightly challenging to work with because it tends to curl up on itself when you remove it from the backing. So I found that if I start to remove the washi tape from the backing, but I only go about 2 inches down. So I take that and I've got 2 inches of the backing pulled off and I'm going to trim that backing off. Doesn't have to be a perfect cut. You just want to make sure that you don't cut the washi tape. Now you can see already that it's curling on itself, and you can probably understand now why we are not pulling the entire backing off at one time. So I'm going to grab my album, double check that I have it the right way so I don't put my washi on upside down. I'm going to go ahead and pull my camera back so you guys can see a little better what our next step will be. We're going to take our washi tape and we are going to center it over top of our album. We'll find our pencil mark and make sure it's in the middle. We're going to want about a 1/4 inch overhang at the top and bottom. So we're going to pull it up about a 1/4 inch past the end of the album and set it down. You want to try to make sure that you've got it level as well. And if you don't have it down in the first spot, you can go ahead and pull it up. It will let you work with it for a little bit. Sorry, it's really hard for me to see over this camera. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right, there we go. Now, we don't want to lay the sides of our washi tape down yet, because that will make it impossible for us to pull the rest of the backing off. So I've gone ahead and turned my album over to the side, and I flip this up and start to pull the backing off a little bit. Now, the reason why we aren't doing this while our album is laying flat is because if we were to try that, the album would never be able to close. The washi tape would cause too much resistance and it would be stuck open. So I've got a good hold of some backing, and what I'm going to do is pull evenly and gently, and at the same time on the back end I'm smoothing with my fingers. Now once I get a little closer to this end, I'm going to put my fingers behind the album and help push it through. But because it's a little longer than my hand, it takes me a minute to get there. So we're just smoothing on this side as we pull and push the album through. And this is the best way that you're going to be able to do this without having wrinkles in your washi tape. And it's a little tricky, but once you do it, you kind of get the hang of what's happening here. And once we get to the end, don't fold your things over yet. I'm going to talk to you a minute about that. And I apologize for the noise on the camera because I know this backing's a little loud. Okay. So now that we've got our backing on and it's pretty smooth, we can grab a hold of our album, and I kind of tilt it toward me a little bit so I can see what I'm doing, and then just kind of work it over the edge. And don't fold your ends down yet either. Got a little trick for that as well. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it and do the other side. Now if you see right there, I got a bit of a wrinkle, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it back up real quick. Wrinkle's not going to ruin it, but if you kind of have a little bit of a perfectionist vibe like I do, you know, it makes you crazy. All right. Now, before we do their ends, what I like to do is grab my scissors and nip at the corner. And that way, when we fold it in, you don't have any weird wrinkles. There we go. And it doesn't matter which one you fold in first. Just kind of start. And you'll probably want to take your fingernails and get in there a little bit. Push it down behind that binding. Okay. Now you'll see that I wasn't perfectly centered from top to bottom, so it might be just a little bit longer than the other end. That's fine. It happens. Okay. Here we go. We've got a beautiful binding on our album. Looks great. So the next thing that you can do is you can go ahead and apply some vintage photo ink around the edges of your album. You can do that now. You can do that at the end. You can wait and see. It's up to you. I went ahead and inked up my album. Our next step is going to be to start putting paper on the inside. But I want to take a quick second to talk to you about the Foundation's Jagged Quarter Flip Folio. We'll be using this on the inside of our album as well, so I wanted to take just a second to familiarize you with what we're going to be using. We've got the quarter flip folio. You'll open it and you will find 4 flip pages. We have this small ephemera piece. We have a flip page that's got a jagged edge on it. We've got 2 short spine hinges and 2 long spine hinges. So we will get to those in just a minute, but let's go ahead and start with the first part of our album. We'll open to the front page and you will find this page that opens like this. What we're going to do is we are going to fold it backward. So now what we have is a 4-page spread. We're going to go ahead and place our first sheet of paper here, and we are going to use this. So let's take our adhesive. I'm using my Tombow tape runner. And we're going to go apply adhesive near the edge so we don't have any awkward peel-ups, because this is a flip album and it will be used and handled and adored and loved and cherished. So we want to make it last forever. So be generous in your adhesive and get close to the edges. And then we are going to center this page and give about 1/8 of an inch all the way around it. We want to make sure that we aren't covering the crease on the end, because that is how the album moves. So we've got our first page in, super easy, and we will cover these 2 next. And for that, we're going to use this sheet and this sheet, and it makes a really fun meet in the middle with that, with the piers. And again, all we have to do is throw some adhesive on the back and place them down. And once again, we're centering, leaving it about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And when we place our other one, we're going to want to try to make sure that it is level to the one across the way. It makes a really nice presentation that way when it doesn't look all wonky. Go 1/8 of an inch again, making sure to not cover the crease on the side, so our album continues to flip freely back and forth. Looking great so far. And we will get to embellishing the album at a later time. Right now we're just building the base of it with this beautiful paper. We're going to flip our album open and we're going to work on this side first. We'll take this paper and this paper. Now you can pick and choose how you would like to have your papers lay in your album. I really prefer for this one to have the words out on the side, because when we go to the other side, we'll be using the exact same sheet of paper on the far end. And I would like the words to go on the outside of that. And it just kind of frames it really nicely. You know, it's really hard to see here, but in the end, you'll be very happy with it. I am quite positive. And for this sheet here, we'll be using the exact same color here. And what I like to do is give it a little flip, because it adds a little bit of visual interest and it doesn't look like the same sheet of paper right next to itself. We will grab our adhesive and start adhering these to our album. And once again, I'm ensuring that I have the words over to my left to act as a frame for this 4-page layout. 1/8 of an inch all the way around, being sure not to cover up our crease, make it a little bit leveler, more level. There we go. And we'll go ahead and work all the way across, because when our papers are next to each other, it's much easier to see that we're coming close. I have it turned upside down from where I wanted it. Place our paper in there and make sure it's level across the top and not covering any creases. And we'll move to the next one. Now you may not want to apply your adhesive over top like I'm doing. Depends on how you are with your adhesive. And then, like I said, I'm going to flip this paper so it's the opposite of the one next to it to add just a little bit of interest. And making sure not to cover the creases of the album so it continues to flip freely. I would adhere that one down. And then our last one, the voyage, will be out onto the right to help frame our layout. Yeah. All right. Now we have our 4-page layout covered up nicely. For our next step, we are going to need our single-page folio out of our 1/4 flip folio package, this sheet of paper, and our pencil. So let's grab those items and get started. The jagged edge technique simply means that we are creating this jagged edge on this sheet of paper. All we have to do is place our paper on top of our folio and move it out about 1/4 inch from the crease. You can see that right there. And what this does is, once we trace the edge on the back of this and move the paper to where there's 1/8 of an inch, there'll be 1/8 of an inch on this side as well. So let's take our paper and center it top to bottom and move it out to about 1/4 inch away from the crease here. And then flip it over, take our pencil and trace the edge of the folio page onto our paper. It doesn't need to be a dark line, but you do need to be able to see it so you can cut it. There we go. And we'll go ahead and grab our scissors and we will trim away the excess paper, following our pencil line fairly close, but it doesn't have to be an exact cut, because when we place it onto our folio page, you've got that little bit of a gap, and it really saves us from having to be exact. It gives you a little bit of a grace, I guess, a little bit of leeway. Okay, and we've gone ahead and done that. And like I said earlier, we will have to re-ink this edge of our paper. So we'll grab our ink real quick and do that. And I'm sorry, I know this is super loud on the video. I guess those iPhones make awesome microphones. All right. So now that we have our edge inked up again, we'll take our folio. And you can place it on there and you can see how the edge lines up really well. We'll grab our adhesive and follow along the edge. You want to get right up on there so it doesn't peel up in weird places. Right? And then once again, we're centering it in between the crease and the edge of the folio page, top to bottom. There we go. It looks great. We are going to do the exact same technique on the other side of our folio page with this green sheet of paper. It's got those great palm trees. And again, we're moving it out 1/4 of an inch from the crease. I'm going to give it a little bend here so we can kind of see it better on the video. And then we want to center it top to bottom. There we go. And we're going to flip it over and grab our pencil again. Trace along the edge of our folio. And trim away the excess. Once again, we're following the line fairly close, but doesn't have to be completely perfect, unless for you it does. And believe me, I would understand. So we're going to go ahead and ink this up because we've cut off the edge and we want it to match. Make sure you get in those corners there. Flip our folio over and apply our adhesive. And make sure you get up in those edges of the jagged part. Sorry, you probably can't see. And centering it top to bottom, left to right. Give it just a little bit here on this end. There we go. All right, now we're ready to insert this into our album. And for that, we're going to need to grab our double-sided tape. So let's grab our album and turn the page. And we're going to open up this flap. And right here is where we are going to adhere our new folio page. We'll have it right here. Let's go ahead and crease that so you can see how it goes in. We're going to place it right here, and this part will be covered by a sheet of paper, and it will form a flap over top. So the first thing we're going to do is get our double-sided tape and place a strip on the back of the album folio. I'm going to move my album up out of the way so I don't get this tape on there. You want to make sure that you do not cover up the crease, because that is the only way that the album can bend. And what we have to do is trim these at about a 45-degree angle. And what that does is it helps hide the edge of the folio behind the new sheet of paper that we place over top of it. It just gives it kind of a more finished look on the other side. So we'll see that we have our fold right there. And we want to make sure that we don't impede the ability of this page to move. So we want to place our flip page right so it is on top of that seam, so it still continues to fold back and forth, and we can continue to open our album. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off my tape cover. And I'm going to place that right along the edge. Make sure it's lined up at the bottom and the top. And that page can still turn upward. As you can see, I still have some adhesive poking out, so you don't want to put that down and get it stuck. But you can see that your album can still move. So we can take our next sheet of paper and place it over top. And for that, we're going to be using green as well. We can grab our adhesive and go along the edges. Let me get this edge a little better. There we go. Now we can pop this green right over top. You want it to line up across the top so you don't have wonky edges. And make sure that it can still bend so you're not covering your creases. There we go. And then our next sheet of paper will also be green. And for these, since they're all palm trees and they're all kind of facing the same direction, I leave them all going upright because it just looks better that way. And go along the edge. Line it up across the top and center it left to right in this page, making sure we don't cover the crease. And there we go. We've got a 3-page spread. Beautiful. The next page we're going to cover up will be this one. And for that, we're going to use a matching page. So we'll grab our adhesive once more. And run along the edges. and center it top to bottom, left to right, and across the top with the next page. Right. Get that adhered down, looks beautiful. Now for the back of our 3-page flip, we'll be using this sheet of paper. Grab too many. And we will pop that right over top, making sure that our palm trees are facing the right direction. All right. All right, that looks great. Love it. Now you may notice that when you go to close this, it kind of feels like it's binding just a little bit. All you need to do is just kind of press down on that edge a little bit. It just needs to be broken in just a smidge. Especially once you have some elements inside of your fold, it'll get a little thicker and it will just need to be bent just a smidge. Our last 2 pages will be covered with these papers. I'm going to place them so I can read them and adhere them down. On our back cover, you'll notice that there is a crease there, so the album can bend. So we want to make sure that when we place our paper, we have it centered between the end of the album and that crease. And then center it up and down. And grab our last sheet of paper and get that adhered in there. And after this, we will be building a pocket, which will go right here on the back cover. So we'll get this one centered and lined up across the top. And pop it out just a little bit. There we go. All right, that looks great. To build our pocket, we're going to use the Just Another Day in Paradise journal card. So we need to cut this piece of paper in half. Let's grab our cutting board, paper trimmer. I guess I'm a closet chef, I don't know. And we're going to place this on the 4-inch mark because our paper is 8 inches long. And we'll go ahead and trim this one off and set it to the side. I think we'll be able to use that for matting cards later. And let's grab our ink and ink our card up. And then I will meet you back here. We've got our journaling card inked up. Next, we need to grab these 2 short spine hinges out of our folio pack. These measure about 6 1/4 inches. We are going to take one of them and cut it in half. So let's grab our cutting board. And we're going to sit it at 3 1/8 inch. And trim that. And this one we are going to trim to 5 7/8. Alrighty. We can take our cutting board and set it back over to the side. We're going to flip our journaling card over. We're going to crease our spine hinges. And then we are going to cut these at an angle. Just on one end for the short ones. And then we can do both ends on the long one. Just cut in a 45-degree angle. And that just kind of helps hide it behind our paper. Alrighty. So we're going to take our double-sided tape. And again, I probably could have put this on before I cut the ends off. It would have saved me an extra step, but wasn't thinking. And again, the only reason why I'm using the double-sided tape is because this is an active album, and I feel like the stronger the adhesive, the better it will be for the longevity of the album. Go ahead and trim off my extra adhesive, which of course was the step I should have saved. I'm going to slide some on here. You want to make sure that you're not covering up the fold. Although this is not a moving part, it won't make any sense to have adhesive on the crease. And you do want to make sure that you don't have any adhesive peeking out, because it will stick to the things that you try to put in your pocket. Okay. So now that we've got that all set, we can take our spine hinge and adhere it to the back of our card. We want to make sure that the bottom piece is on the actual bottom so we can read our words. And you also want to tuck it just a little bit behind the line of the paper so it's not peeking out when it's in your album. It just gives it a much cleaner look. I'm going to take off one end of my adhesive. Get it in there. Okay, and this one can just go on the side like that. If you're really worried about things coming out of the corner, you could put it down a little further if you need to. I don't think that I'm going to have anything that will fall out of that little hole, so I'm going to take it and make sure that it's tucked behind the paper a little bit. And I'm going to do that to the last one as well. Okay. And we can grab our album. And turn to the last page. We're going to place our pocket here on the back cover so we can take off all of our double-sided adhesive covers. And we'll go ahead and you want to line it up to the very bottom of your paper here so nothing is peeking out. There we go. Ooh, a little sticky. All right. All right, we have a pocket. Awesome. What we're going to do next is we are going to cover our quarter flip folio. So let's go ahead and grab our folio and I will meet you back here. All right, so we've got our jagged flip folio. We need to use the blue newsprint paper, a pencil, and our scissors. We're going to do the jagged edge technique on the front page of our folio. You'll notice that it's got a double crease to help expand when there's things on the inside. So we want to make sure that we don't cover that crease up at all. We're going to pull our paper out to about 1/4 inch. Make sure it's centered top to bottom and that we can read our words on our paper. And we'll flip it over. And trace our edge of our folio onto the back of the paper. This one's got quite a few little lumps and bumps to follow along on. There we go. We'll go ahead and trim away our excess. Keeping close to the line, doesn't have to be exact. Now we can grab our ink and ink up the end that we just cut. We can take our adhesive and hit the back of our paper and follow closely along the edge so we don't have any awkward peel-ups. We'll center our paper in between that second crease and the edge of our folio. Beauty. And we're going to go ahead and do the same technique for the inside page of our folio. And for that, we're going to use this paper. It's got that little bit of beach scene with the palm leaves and the grass there. And of course, we want to make sure that we have it facing the right way when we open up our folio. Move it out 1/4 inch. Centered top to bottom. And trace our edge. There we go. We will trim off the excess paper. And once again, we'll take our ink and get the edge of this paper. Slide a little adhesive on the back. And we'll apply our paper to the inside page of the folio, being careful not to cover up the crease so our album can continue to flip back and forth. Make sure we have it level on the top. Looking good. And we're going to flip open our folio. Next, we're going to place our paper over here on the side. And for that, we're using this sheet of paper. I've gone ahead and I've trimmed it to 5 3/4 by taking off this side because I wanted to make sure that the north sign was intact. We've got some adhesive on the back. We're going to go ahead and apply it right in there, making sure that we don't cover up this crease so our album continues to move. And next we're going to place a magnet in the middle of our folio. Sorry. So we'll take one of our magnets out of the plastic that came in our kit. And then magnets have poles and opposites attract. So we want to make sure that we find out which side of the magnet will stick to the other. Otherwise, when we go to use it, if it repels, it's not doing us any good. We're going to take our glue dot that came in our kit and apply it to one side of the magnet. There we go. And this magnet is going to go in the middle of our album, of our folio. So we're going to find the middle, right about there, right? There we go. We're just going to press it down. Separate our magnets. Set that over to the side. And the next thing we're going to do is apply the sheet of paper that is going in the middle. Now we want to make sure that we don't cover our magnet with adhesive because that will reduce the amount of pull it has with the other magnet. I'm going to go ahead and do my adhesive square that I like to do around magnets just to remind myself. And we're going to apply our adhesive on the back of this paper. avoiding that middle part. And I think we're going to have the grass up here in the corner so we can read this part. Place it in the middle. Center it. Make sure it's not impeding any movement. And there we go. We've got our magnet covered up. Looking great. And the next thing we're going to do is take our 4 blue squares that we cut out and inked earlier, and we're going to apply them to the top of these quarter flips. Okay. So we'll grab our adhesive. Now with these, it's just lining them up and covering them up completely. There we go. Looking good. Now you can place photos on the inside. You can use an extra sheet of paper to cover them as well to give you matting. It just depends on what you'd like to do. I believe that I will be using some paper later, maybe, I think. All right, and the next thing we're going to do is cover up the back of our folio. With this blue sheet of paper, we're going to trim this to 5 3/4 as well. Grab my paper trimmer. Put that up there. Cover it with ink. Put some adhesive on the back. Then we're going to center it between this last crease here and the edge of the folio. There we go. Looks great. Now that we've got our flip folio completely covered with paper, we need to grab our long spine hinge. And again, we need to trim, well, caught myself this time. We're going to place some double-sided tape on our spine hinge. Making sure that we don't cover up the bend. There we go. Trim both ends at an angle. Again, this is to hide our spine hinge behind some paper. It just has a cleaner look when you don't have it squared off at the end. There we go. Okay. And we're going to take our album and open it up to the front page. And this is where we are going to apply our folio. It will be placed on the end, so it'll swing open like so. And the first thing we need to do is apply our hinge to the back of our folio. And we just want to make sure that we have it right up there on the edge. So when the folio opens, it will lay flat. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and peel the tape off of that one side. And I'm going to center it. There we go. And then I'm going to peel the tape off of this end. Make sure that it's centered on our album nicely. And then get that pressed down nice and tight. There we go. Our folio flips out really nicely on that. We're going to be covering the inside of our folio with these two papers. But the first thing we need to do is we need to place another magnet on the inside that will hold it shut. And again, we want to make sure that we aren't covering that magnet with adhesive. We also have to find its pole. So we're taking the last two magnets out of our kit. We're letting them find each other. Yeah, find my glue dot. Put that right on the back of that magnet. And we're going to place our magnet centered from top to bottom on our cover and about an inch in. So right about there. We'll press that down. Then we're going to take our last glue dot, well, our second to last glue dot, sorry, and put it on top. Then we're going to swing our folio shut like so and press. And now we have perfectly placed magnets. Our next step will be to cover our folio and our page with this paper, making sure that we aren't covering the crease here in the album and here at the flip so it can continue to move freely. So let's go ahead and take some adhesive, making sure that we don't cover our magnet. And you want to make sure also that you get close to the edge around it so your paper doesn't peel up weird. I think that we're going to place the dark blue up and down like so. Get close to your edges. And make sure that we've got the proper side that we aren't covering up. Make sure you don't cover up your crease here. Have it centered the best you can. I'll pull it up here just a bit. There we go. I'm going to do my little adhesive square here. I don't know why I do it. I just do it. I'm just going to go with it. I'm owning it. on this side. And we're centering our paper. I'm trying to line it up with the one across the way. There we go. Looks great. To make our quarter flip holding card, I guess is what we're going to call it, we need this piece of ephemera. We need our ephemera piece out of our flip folio kit. We need this piece of ephemera. It's got like a little bit of faint writing on there. And then our Life is Better at the Beach journaling card. I'm going to ink this one up real quick. And then we can apply it into our album. We are almost done, you guys. I know, I'm super excited. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy putting these albums together. I hope that you've had a good time as well. All right, our first step will be to apply some adhesive onto our Life is Better at the Beach. I'm going to center that on the card. I'm going to look at it on this ephemera piece and see how I want it to be placed. I'm going to give it a little bit of a slant just for fun. Kind of go like that. Go. And the next thing we're going to do is grab our magnet, and we want to make sure that we have got the correct pole. So we'll have to take our album and open it up and let our magnet find its little friend down there. We're going to take our last glue dot and place it on the back of that magnet. And then we put this card so it's centered. And press down. Now we've got our magnet on the back. And move our album out of the way. And again, to ensure that we keep a lot of pull on that magnet, we're just going to do a little adhesive square around there. And we'll center it on our large ephemera piece. There we go. Get a little artsy with it. Let it have a little bit of a cant. Just because I can. You can tell it's getting late here. So there we go. This will hold our quarter flip down. When you're looking at it, you just set it over to the side. And you can flip up and check out all the pictures and then pop it right back down. So much fun. So now we are done. We have completed our beached album, and it is time to begin embellishing. Let's just take a real quick look at what we've done so far. We open up the album right away to our flip. It's so beautiful. I love this album so much. I really love this 4-page spread. So many opportunities for great pictures. And then we've got our folio page that we've inserted. It's at the jagged edge, creating a 3-page layout here. And then finally, we've got our pocket in the back that we can put lots of pictures, journaling, mementos. Here we go. Now that we have the base of our album built, it is time to embellish. Let's talk a little bit about the things that we're going to use. Of course, we've got our tray of die cuts and ephemera that we've inked up. We have these fabulous little rub-ons. I love them so much. They're a lot of fun to put on. We've got some washi tape. These are all really cool. They are like cut out, so you just peel them up like a sticker. We've got some extra paper left over that we can cut up and use for photo backing. We've got our stack of paper that we cut up earlier already. We've got our ephemera picture frames, and I've gone ahead and cut out some matting for those. They kind of, it's not really matting, it more represents where a photo will be. So let's talk about this real quick. We've got these 2 little guys, and these are cut to 1 3/8 by 2 inches. The photos. And that leaves quite a bit underneath there. And the reason I did that was so when I glue it into the album, there's still a place for somebody to put pictures if they use the album. I'm not attaching it all the way around, just at the bottom. So we'll have 2 of those. And then we've got 2 of these. These, I believe, are 2 by 2 1/4. And those will go to these ephemera frames. We have 2 of these. Sorry. And these are 2 1/4 by 2 3/4 inch. And we've got 4 of these. These are 2 3/4 by 2 1/4. And again, they're a little long at the bottom. So when I glue it in, there's still plenty of room to slide a picture behind it. And I've got 16 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch matting, well, photos that I'm going to put on my matting paper here. I've got a 4 by 4, which is just going to go on the paper without anything behind it. I have 2 3.5 by 5 inch. Again, it'll just be either a large ephemera piece or just right on the page. And then I've got 1 4 by 6. So now that we've got that, we've got our adhesive, our scissors, our liquid glue, we can go ahead and start to embellish our album. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my photos and attach them to the matting paper. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick, and then I will meet you back and we will start. When I am adhering my little faux photos onto these matting papers, I'm applying my adhesive back just a little bit so I have some room to put an ephemera piece should I decide to stick something behind there. Just a little tip in case you decide you might want to throw a flower that's a little bit behind that paper. I'm going to go ahead and place a little bit of liquid adhesive on this frame area so I can adhere my photo backing there. And just a reminder, this is simply for this project on my end. You don't have to do anything like this for yours. You can just put your picture right behind there. If you're giving it as a gift, this might be a good idea because then it can show everybody, hey, there's supposed to be a picture back there. And then they can just slide one behind there and pop a little bit of glue on the corners of the frame to hold it down. I'm going to walk you through embellishing the front of our album cover. For that, we're going to be using one of our extra sheets of paper. It's got this great frame around it. We're going to end up trimming that out to 4 3/4 by 3 3/4. We'll do that in just a minute. These are all of the ephemera that we will be using to cover our album. We've got this great beach day sign, fun palm leaf, a rope, a couple of tickets, the word beach. This is paradise tag, another ticket, cute little birdie, 3 flowers, each a different size. We've got the shell ephemera piece and this envelope ephemera piece with the little 5-cent tag on there. We've got this great kind of doily, this ledger sheet ephemera, and then we're going to use sun soaked out of our rub-ons. So we'll go ahead and set this stuff over to the side real quick while we trim out our paper. So I'm going to grab my paper trimmer, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to cut out this frame area. So I'm going to start right over here and cut this obvious edge out because it's not going to be exactly that size, but it's going to be close. So I want to get the coolest parts of the frame on my cover. And I really like this edge. So I went ahead and cut this out first. Now I'm going to measure from there. So we need to make this 3 3/4 inch wide. So I'm going to put the cool part of my frame over on the 3 3/4 mark. And then I'm going to trim what's left off. And then we need to make it 4 3/4. So I'm going to take, again, this cool edge and throw it over to the 4 3/4 mark and trim that part off. And there we go. We've got a really neat little frame area. And this is going to go right on the cover of our album. So I'm going to put my paper trimmer over to the side and grab our album. We've got our cover right here. You can tell by that cute little mollusk. I think I just like to say that word. I don't know. Our first layer will be this ledger, and we're going to push it right up to the edge of our washi tape. So I'm going to grab our adhesive and make a little room so you can see what I'm doing. Get right up on the edge of that. And you want to make sure that you are adhering it well because it is the cover. It will be handled quite a bit. And then I'm just going to center it from top to bottom. Just like that. Pushed right up against our washi. And smooth it down. Our next layer will be our doily, for lack of a better word. I'm not entirely sure if that's what it is, but that's what I'm going with. And I'm going to show you how it's going to stack up dry so you can see what we're doing. And we're going to place our doily. We'll have our envelope behind there. We'll have this great ephemera piece poking out at the bottom. And then we'll put our frame over top. So it's going to look super cool. We'll have a few tickets behind here, some beautiful flowers on the side, our palm leaf going up, our rope down here. So I'm going to throw some adhesive on the back of this. And make sure you get all the way around. And this is going to be placed centered on the album, but then maybe about a ½ inch or a pinky finger's worth up from the bottom of that. Okay. There we go. Now for our next layer, we're using our envelope. And Janine did this thing where she took an X-Acto knife and cut out that little 5-cent piece so you can shove some ephemera underneath there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. Okay, I can't find my self-healing mat, so I'm just going to use the washi tape wrapping. And I need to find my X-Acto knife. Sorry, I guess I probably should have let you guys know that you needed that. I'll make a little note at the beginning of the video. And then just trim. You don't want to go all the way back because then it will rip when you put your ephemera in there. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of ink. I'm going to grab a little bit of ink and ink that up just to make it look a little nicer, like it fits in with what we've been doing. Go. And that will be placed here. Let's dry fit our other stuff to make sure we're doing what we should be doing. Pop that under there. Got our great little frame end. We'll also be placing some tickets behind there. I think we'll take that one and put it all the way behind maybe. And have that off the side. You just want to play with it and get it to the way you like it. There's no hard and fast rules on which ephemera or die cuts you need to be using. This is your album. You should be able to personalize it the way you want. Lift that one up just a little bit. There we go. I really like the way that looks, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it that way. But the first thing I'm going to put down is my netting. And this I'm going to put underneath so it pokes out a little bit there. But I don't need to waste all of this great netting by shoving most of it behind there. So I'm just going to cut it. and set the extra over to the side to use someplace else in my album. And I'll just put that right there so it peeks out underneath the corner nice. A lot of this is, for me, a lot of it is dry fitting, kind of excessively maybe for some, I don't know. But I like to make sure that I really enjoy how it looks before I glue it down. I'm going to grab my liquid adhesive and kind of remember where I've got everything at. And throw some on the back. I love this adhesive because you can still take a minute to move things around and all that glue is going to dry perfectly clear. So nobody will know that you were indecisive to begin with. There we go. I'm going to pop the rest of that out and throw some adhesive on the back of this. I'm going to get it behind there, but I don't want to put it over top of that quite yet. I want to be able to slide things back there. There we go. The next piece I'm going to take is my ticket and hold it out there for a minute. I want this one to kind of poke down a little bit off of the edge so it doesn't look so uniform, I guess. Okay, I like the way that looks. I'm going to throw some liquid on there so I don't have to move it too much because I really like the way it looks right there and I don't want to lose it. I can pop it up over here and get the back side. Okay. I want to, before this dries, slide my ticket behind there. I'll add some more adhesive right there. Okay. There we go. All right, it looks great so far. Now when we put a picture or whatever kind of element you want to put on the top, you're probably going to want to put a little bit of adhesive there and tack it down. Next thing I want to do is slide my Paradise ephemera right underneath that edge. So I'm going to throw some liquid adhesive, ooh, right there. Making weird noises. Slide it underneath that ephemera piece. There we go. When I use my rub-ons, I like to just trim them out. Because it's much easier for me to apply it that way instead of having to deal with the whole sheet. So I just take a little bit and slide it where it needs to go. I'm going to put that right there. Make sure it's level. There we go. I'm going to take our little handy dandy rub-on stick. I love these rub-ons. To be honest, I'd never really even used them before this album, but these are so much fun. So many cute things to add, and you can layer them. There we go. You just want to make sure you've got it rubbed down on your album. Next thing we're going to do is apply our laser die cuts over on the side. I'm going to start with my palm leaf. And then we're going to just do a little dry layout real quick so we can see how we like it. I think I'm going to see if I can fit that underneath there real quick before it dries. It's not going to go all the way, so I'm going to trim it real quick. There we go. I love this stuff. It's so cute. I'm thinking a large flower. I'll kind of do another one. I have a cute little one over here. Maybe our little bird buddy can hang out over here. And at the top, we'll put the word beach. I think that will look great. I'm going to apply some adhesive to my beach word first. And just line it up with the paper. And since I'm kind of done up here, I'm going to take my sunburst stickles and put a little bit on there, and it will dry lickety split as long as I don't go too thick. And I'm going to follow the blue, give it a little bit of sparkle. Because not only do we love ink at the tree, we love sparkle. And this stuff is so much fun. Just a little bit will give you such a nice little shine. Here we go. Now that'll have an opportunity to dry while I'm doing the rest of this here. Now don't forget, you don't want to apply adhesive to any of your embellishments that are covering this until you've already got your photo or whatever it is that you want to place in there. I'm just going to have this leaf following the edge of the paper like so. And I'm only going to place adhesive onto the side that's coming off over here. Get it right on that stem, so it's holding on. You'll probably want to make sure you get these tips so they don't get ripped off through handling of the album. There we go. I'm going to adhere that directly on top of there. And again, I'm only going to do the side. It will not be on top of my photo. Bring it down just a little. And I will pop dot my birdie and my flowers. Let me grab my pop dots. Use a half of one for his head. Put him out so he's standing right on the edge of that ticket. There we go. I just tucked his little legs behind there so they don't get ripped off. I am going to lay out my flowers to see how I would like them to look. I'm going to pop out this little one. I'll pop them all out. You want to make sure that, again, you're only doing it on the side that will not be over top of your photo. I'm going to put a few on that one. I think I overpopped that. Make sure you don't cover up your photo edge. There. Place this one right over top of it, like so. I think we will have that one right there. Peel that one back up because that will be over top of the photo a little bit, like that. There we go. Okay, looks beautiful. I love it. I'm going to take my stickles, add a little love around these flowers. Give them a little shine. There we go. And there's our front cover of our album. Well, congratulations, everybody. We finished the construction of the base of our album. We have embellished our front cover, and we are ready to begin embellishing the inside. The rest of the video will be without narration. It's just me in double speed embellishing my album. I'm posting it so you guys can have ideas on what ephemera I used where and how you might use it as well. Please personalize your albums. It's so much fun to sort through all this beautiful ephemera and choose the ones that really work for you. Here's a couple of tips. As you can see in the video right now, I'm distressing the edge of my ephemera. I do that throughout the entire album. I feel like it really lends a little bit of character to your album, and it also helps it look not brand new, so once everybody's in there flipping and things happen, you really don't notice it as much. It just adds to the character. Don't be afraid to layer your embellishments. You can layer your rub-on top of your washi. You can stack your ephemera. Just use those pop dots. Be careful with the pop dots when you're using it inside of the album because you want to make sure that your album will still close. So every once in a while, maybe give your album a quick close and you can see how things are laying. Now you might have noticed in the video how I just cut that rub-on in half. Don't be afraid to get in there and cut your rub-ons, your ephemera, your die cuts. You can snip your foliage in different ways to tuck them behind different corners so you're actually getting double the amount of ephemera. You can snip your rub-ons to make them fit underneath of something. There's so many different ways that you can trim and make things work where you might not think that they will work. So don't be afraid to get in there and experiment with cutting your ephemera. It's not as scary as it sounds. Well, again, I really appreciate you guys coming along on the ride. Please follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. Tag us on your pictures. I want to see what you guys are doing with this album. Come and take an in-store class. We'll be offering in-store classes for both of the albums, The Hike More and The Beach. You can find those on scrapbooktree.net. Don't forget to shop with us and visit us in the store. We love to see your smiling faces. And thanks again, everybody. It's been so much fun, and I will see you at the store soon.